Welcome everybody, welcome on YouTube as well. My name is Aurélien Lorange, and with my colleague Mr. Bonova, we'll have this first match of the 8th final organized by the Corax Foundation of the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Tournament. So I will ask as well the team from the Hague to open the cameras. And as well we are welcoming as well the third member from the team from the University of Burdwan, Mr. Chattopadhyay. So if you can, Mr. Chattopadhyay, you can as well open your camera. So welcome everybody for this match. This is the first match of the elimination phase of this tournament. So we have 16 teams, and 2 of them today have their match. The University of Applied Science and as well the University of Burdwan will have their match in order to define which team will move to the quarterfinals, which will be in around 2 weeks. So, as usual, for this edition, we ask every team members to introduce themselves, and afterwards, of course, we give the floor as well to the coach. There is one coach in the room. After, of course, we'll move to the match itself. I would like to give the floor, first of all, to Ms. Varshala. Could you introduce yourself, maybe?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Emily Varshala. I'm a part of the team from the Hague University of Applied Sciences, and I'm currently a year 2 student studying international and European law.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chattopadhyay, could you introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, I hope everyone is doing well. I'm Tonil Chattopadhyay from the Department of Law at the University of Burdwan, India. And I'm glad to see you all here, and I hope we'll have a wonderful match today, and congratulations to both teams for going in the 1/8 finals, and I hope we'll have a good match today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nabil Darwish.
Hello, my name is Ahmed Darwish. I'm a year 2 student here at the Hague University of Applied Sciences. I study international and European law, and I look forward to a fruitful debate.
Thank you very much. Mr. Das.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Sanjeev Das from the University of Burdwan, India, and we are waiting. Actually, I am excited to have engage in a constructive debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Zaitsev.
Hello, my name is Yaroslav Zaitsev. I'm a member of the Hague University of Applied Sciences debate team, and I also study on the second year of the International and European Law in the Hague University of Applied Sciences, and we're really looking forward towards the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Miss Sultana.
Good day, everyone. I'm Sadia Sultana from the University of Burdwan. I'm second year law student. I'm looking forward to the debate. Best of luck, everyone.
Thank you very much. And a few words as well from one of the coach, Mr. Altamash Khalil.
Hey everybody, my name is Altamash Khalil. I'm a third year international European law student, and I am one of the coaches of the Hague University of Applied Sciences. I'm Indian, from your neighboring state, Odisha. I am very much looking forward to witnessing what is about to unfold today. So all the very best to both the teams, and I'm really sure that you both are going to do really well.
Thank you very much. So now, moving to the match, you received 10 days ago the topic that you are preparing. You prepared for this match, which was an indefinite state of emergency, for example, one without an established end date or one that is prolonged more than once, is unconstitutional. So this is the topic you received for this match. So now we'll know which position you will have during the match. So we share my screen. And then you will know if you are in favor or against for this match. So normally you should see now the wheel with the 2 positions possible. So 2 positions for the university in favor and against, and 2 positions possible as well for the University of Burdwan. So now we will see. So for concerning this motion, the University of Applied Science will be in favor, and the University of Burdwan will be against. So concretely, to clarify, it means that the University will defend the position that an indefinite state of emergency is unconstitutional. And on the other side, the University of Burdwan will define that that an indefinite state of emergency is not unconstitutional. So now my colleague will share the screen with 5 minutes that you have in order to review your argumentation. Of course, you can close your camera and audio. And in 5 minutes, this is the Hague University who will start the debate.
Thank you, everyone. The time is up. When we proceed to the match, you will have a notification from our side when the 30 seconds are remaining for your speech and when your time is up. So we would ask all of you to keep the call in the gallery view.
Thank you. So now it is time to start with the match. So we'd like to give the floor for the opening statement to the Hague University of Applied Science. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. On behalf of the Hague University of Applied Sciences, I'll be arguing for the statement that an indefinite state of emergency is unconstitutional. We are going to substantiate our position by expanding on the following points. Firstly, the restriction of international human rights law engendered by indefinite states of emergency is unconstitutional. Secondly, there's a lack of checks and balances where such emergencies are imposed. And thirdly, the safeguards put in place are simply insufficient. To come back to the first point, restrictions of international human rights law engendered by indefinite states of emergency is unconstitutional. There are 3 very central elements that lie at the heart of constitutionalism, which are democracy, rule of law, and human rights. An indefinite restriction of these human rights cannot be justified in accordance with the proportionality principle in a state of emergency. The urgency for the imminent restoration of normalcy can be found in numerous international human rights law instruments. For example, Article 4, Part 2 of the ICCPR allows for limited derogations that must be temporary. General Comment 29 of Article 4 states that a state party may unilaterally derogate temporarily from a part of its obligations under the covenant as long as the restoration of a state of normalcy is the predominant objective. The amount of violations of these non-derogable rights demonstrate the ineffectiveness of mitigating the long-term extension of states of emergency. Secondly, there's a lack of checks and balances when such emergencies are imposed. Within a state of emergency, a single actor may be granted dominating power with limited checks and balances. However, one cannot underestimate the importance of these specific checks and balances in particular. Many jurisdictions do not expressly regulate the procedure of a state of emergency once they have declared it within their constitution and rely on external sources to fill the gaps, such as Canada's Emergency Act. The United States uses concerningly low levels of monitoring the range of powers awarded to the executive in a state of emergency. To name a concrete example, the Michigan Supreme Court recently, in 2021, ruled that indefinite emergency powers are unconstitutional. Governor Whitmer kept issuing orders during the pandemic without legislative approval. The court therefore ruled that abandoning checks and balances while handling this dominating power is unconstitutional. This illustrates that governments display a tendency to ignore regular procedures during an indefinite state of emergency for their advantage. Thirdly, the safeguards put in place are simply insufficient to suit the situation. One of the characteristics of the rule of law is the right to judicial review. This makes up an imperative part of the safeguarding procedure, which is often neglected in the light of a state of emergency, as previously outlined. To name an example, among the emergency measures adopted in the case of Hungary during the pandemic in 2020 was the criminalization of individuals who disrupt emergency laws. And these laws gave huge discretionary powers to detain anyone who falls even loosely within that scope, also violating numerous human rights. In such cases, the available safeguard is so ineffective, and the outcome generated by judicial review has proven not to be convincingly justifiable. Ladies and gentlemen, in a world where we strive to uphold the rights of the people, an indefinite state of emergency does the exact opposite, thereby making it unconstitutional. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. So now I will give the floor to the University of Burdwan as well for the opening statement. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you to Emily for the wonderful initiation to the debate. Before I start up, I'd like to say that our proposition would be divided into 3 parts. One, we'd talk about how the rule of law has been established in the Roman Empire and how this has led to a theorization that these are not unconstitutional in nature, but are very much needed in upholding the democracy of a nation or a nation state. Secondly, we would like to talk about the various examples in which the constitutionalism has been upheld in various parts of the world, and thereby we will be ending with the very reason that how this extended emergencies are only a means of controlling the public safety, the public health, and thereby putting forward the lives and the lives of the people before the risk that is generated during such provisions of emergency. Now, I'll talk about a particular statement that has, come to the very fore, which talks about how emergent infectious diseases have become emergencies in waiting. Now, we are talking about the idea of waiting. Such extended emergencies, as we can understand, as Machiavelli has also said, that the only way a republic can survive for generations, for years, is the way that probably there will be a scenario that will accommodate the very sense of an emergency, or the very sense to control an emergency. So now we'll come to the fact that why the Roman dictatorship has existed for so long. There has been criticism, definitely. I'll not go into the fact of why it has been criticized for so long, but the very fact that the Roman dictatorship has been taken up as a very role model is the very fact that even critics, the legal critics like Rossiter has said that the constitutional dictatorship means that the state often needs an iron hand in curtailing the various problems that a state faces while there is a national emergency. Now, my friend has spoken about Hungary. Now, I would like to ask a very simple question to my friend. That definitely Hungary, Hungary had a problem of the unconstitutional means by which the emergency provisions have happened. But this is not the problem which is recent. This has been happening from 2010, and I can quote that even Article 7.1 of the Council says that there should be a formal warning to a country, but this has not been implemented, and this has been like for 10 to 12 years that the EU has continued to stand, even as Orban, who is the Prime Minister of Hungary, he has assumed his powers and unlimited power. So my question is that why has, if these are unconstitutional to that extent, why has Orban not been stopped, and why has EU not intervened when these are happening? So as we can understand, I would not go into how unconstitutional or how unfaithful the things have been when even the dictatorship has been assumed in Germany, but back during the time of the Nazis. But we can understand that during that period there was a huge industrial upsurge, there was a huge industrial development, and that development has led to lot of beneficiaries for developing the country back in the times. And also we can understand that there has been an extension of the emergency in our own country itself. By means of that, I would like to say that there has been an extension, and during the extension there have been certain elements who have actually fueled that emergency, and these are the people who have been kept behind the bars by the government during Indira Gandhi's times, that is the Congress, who have actually assumed powers, have stopped these delinquents from actually entering into live politics and from localizing and mobilizing the people to work against the government. So I believe that the emergency provisions are very much needed, and especially during a time when we are facing with a world crisis and a health crisis, and such things are very much necessary, so that we can protect the liberty that becomes too cumbersome in situations like these emergencies, and special institutions are needed to preserve the republic as we can understand. Also, one thing I would like to suggest is the idea of the hetero investiture, which is like the party which is proposing the emergency should be different from the party that is implementing the emergency, and by means of that, all these ideas that these are unconstitutional can be definitely stopped, and they will not be unconstitutional anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now it is time for the first round of rebuttals. I would like to give the floor to the Hague University of Applied Science. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you for your arguments. The opposition has proven pretty eloquently that a state of emergency is needed and that it is important in a democratic society. However, they fail to mention why an extended one or an indefinite one has importance. This can be done with a definite state of emergency that allows people some kind of insurance that their rights will be returned in due course, and secures some safeguards for them. This is just not in place. There are no safeguards to ensure that the executive does not go out of hand, that the executive does not take the power and have the dominating power to remove rights and to establish themselves and to further give themselves more power for a longer period of time. Regarding the Orban comment, why hasn't the EU stopped Orban? This isn't a good argument because Orban's dictatorship isn't built on the emergency powers. However, regarding that statement, this is not the subject of the debate. The subject of the debate is not the EU's foreign policy. And so Orban's hold of power does not have any effect on an indefinite state of emergency, but on a state of emergency as a whole. Regarding infectious diseases, this is actually a very good example, and we've seen how in Corona multiple states have used that consolidation of power, have used that dominating power to actually cause extreme consolidation of power and to even have some kind of dictatorships. We've seen this in South America and Venezuela, as they've used the guise of stopping misinformation to then stop freedom of speech, which is one of the rights that are essential to a democratic society. Giving all the power to one body is against constitutionalism. Constitutionalism allows for checks and balances, and there are no effective checks and balances when it comes to a state of emergency. That is a matter of fact. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now I would like to give the floor to the University of Burdwan as well for the first rebuttal. You have 2 minutes.
I'd like to start with the argument Emily put forward. We have to understand this is an extraordinary situation, and whatever measures you have given the example of ICCPR and other international organizations, those things happened already in the past, and we are taking lessons from them. This is a situation which is unforeseen, and what decision has to be taken to protect the citizens of the nation, that completely will depend on the able leadership of the country. Now, in a democratic setup, it is a very critical thing. If we try to consider everybody's sentiment to implement a policy, that cannot be possible. Even in the earliest days, the greatest philosophers like Socrates, they had reservation about the true functioning of a democratic system, where in a million of people, we cannot take their sentiment and opinion how the matter will be decided. And the leaderships in many a time in a critical situation, if we give an example like a ship in an emergency condition, they cannot call all the crews. They give you a decision until the time the ship will sink. So this is, we have to understand that the leaders, they are trying to put forward to save the life of the general citizens, and this we need to take care in a greater and in an elaborate manner. And emergency thing is an acceptable situation in all the countries. That part we are sure enough. Now the question is coming the extended. When the leaders, they are taking the decision to impose emergency, so we should be trusting enough them that if they take the decision to extend it, that is for another good purpose. So in this situation, and you gave the example of Michigan. Michigan is only one state, but this verdict was not challenged in the US Supreme Court. So this is a small thing. I think the emergency conditions to an extended period is not completely unconstitutional.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we move to the second round of rebuttal. So I would like to give the floor to the Hague University of Applied Science. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev. The arguments were really well articulated. The issue is that these arguments are very good arguments for why a state of emergency is essential. And to that, we agree. We agree that the state of emergency is essential in some scenarios. However, we're arguing that prolonging it makes the power unfettered and could even cause impunity when it comes to certain crimes. This is extremely dangerous, and we cannot just trust one of the bodies of the government to have good faith as they give themselves the power to have competence over everything. They have the competence. This is extremely difficult to do. And saying that the Michigan example is a small example, that was only one example of first of all, not a small matter at all. It's an extremely dangerous matter when any state is in a state of emergency. That's a dire situation. But there's also countless examples of this. Like I've said, there's the Venezuela example. There's the Hungary example. There's multiple examples of how these have been abused in the past. The thing we do know is that absolute power corrupts absolutely. We know that. That is something that's why democracy has come. Democracy has come to stop the power from centralizing to one body. That's why we have checks and balances. That's why we have the rule of law. And simply put, the lack of safeguards do not ensure this, and we cannot just rely on the good faith of that institution to ensure that somehow they will have good faith and they would only use their power towards stopping the emergency. We know that emergency powers are necessary. We know that the state of emergency is necessary. The argument is that whether prolonging it is necessary, and we argue that prolonging the violation of rights isn't good. Doing it for a short period to tackle a problem could allow a functioning democracy to work. However, we cannot trust this for an unlimited amount of period, for an indefinite period. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now I would like to give the floor to the University of Burdwan for the second rebuttal as well. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Amit, for your insights into our part of the debate. But the point is, when you're talking about a functioning democracy, what are you actually looking at? You're looking at a democracy which is functioning for, say, for our democracy. We also can call ourselves a democracy, but there's a problem with the same, because there are certain states in our very own country which are under the effect of the internal disturbances. And when you are not being able to control the internal disturbances, how do you want the government to not take the iron hands to the core and fight it out? Like, for example, I'll talk about the fact that Kashmir had been Kashmir, which was in the center of a political disturbance and had been happening for the last 60 to 70 years. And I would say that even the United Nations Council had actually passed the resolutions back in the day. Like, I would say it's around 1951 to 1957, when they're saying that the Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly should determine the future in their own manner. But while trying to determine the future in their own manner, you know the problems that have happened over so many years, and Kashmir is a burning issue. So there are not only internal disturbances but also external disturbances, and this is not only with India. This is also with many other majoring countries in South Asian countries, which has happened in Philippines. It has happened it has happened in Myanmar. So the only point is that we would like to understand that how this intensive or an extended constitutionalism has actually benefited, because after 370 was removed, it was totally under the control of the government. Yes, there had been certain draconian policies of the government. Keeping that aside, the control that was very much needed is because of a balanced political system. And in India, with several faiths out there, there is no balanced political system. And as a result, I would like to believe that to maintain such a political standing, these kind of extended emergencies are needed, and by means of that, there should be better policies, and the better policies would actually implement towards a better functioning of the government and an integrated government. Because with so many faiths, the integration is not possible, and only with taking strong iron hands and with using certain stronger policies in several parts of a same state nation, we can actually come to a conclusion that such motives be beneficial for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So now it is time for the conclusion. We start with the conclusion by the Hague University of Applied Science. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Honorable judges and dear counterparts, the arguments presented by the opposing team most certainly merit thorough consideration. Nevertheless, to arrive at the right conclusion, the following should be borne in mind. The fundamental elements of constitutionalism are democracy, rule of law, and human rights. The indefinite state of emergency, notwithstanding the time of its implementation or the context for that matter, result in restriction of human rights. Although certain international human rights law conventions allow for limited derogations of temporary nature, the violations of the non-derogable rights of an individual have now become the accompanying trait of indefinite states of emergency. The resultant handover of emergency powers to a single actor upon the declaration of a state of emergency undermine the delicate balance between the main branches of the government. Even though many states have a well-functioning system of checks and balances that could potentially preempt an unconstitutional consolidation of power, they still do not expressly regulate the procedure of state of emergency upon its declaration. The low levels of monitoring are further worsened by the retrospective nature of the known to us safeguards that are used to prevent the government from abusing the emergency powers. One of the examples could be the judicial review. The assessment of legality of an indefinite state of emergency takes place after its implementation, thereby trivializing the safeguarding procedure. The indefinite states of emergency are unconstitutional, often resulting in restriction of the non-derogable rights, and are often compounded by the mutual system of safeguards and checks and balances. The indefinite states of emergency do not only contradict the principles of constitutionalism, they tear down the very brick and mortar of the governmental order. Thank you very much for your attention and for the debate.
Thank you very much. So now I would like to give the floor to the University of Burdwan as well for the conclusion. You have 2 minutes.
I strongly believe that the unlimited period of emergency is not unconstitutional. International law that protects human rights can be suspended during this period depending upon the severity of the emergency and legislation of the government. Government need during the emergency period to able to concentrate on the reasons of the emergency with the help of the legislation, not against the rules made by the legislation. So uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. So be it the state of emergency or normal times, it always depends upon them to execute rules and not to tamper others' rights. From the set period of emergency, it would not necessarily mean that within that period, powers would not be abused by the leaders. So emergency being an unforeseen event, we should rest our faith on the leaders. It is no use trying to give a fixed, rigid form to something which is not rigid, which is fundamentally changing and which depends upon the circumstances. Now, the period of emergency, for whatever reason, unlimited or limited, can vary from 24 hours to 5 years. So, as per the requirement of the situation, it depends. So, at this period, if we really care about the various remedies like principle of legality, time limit, proportionality, non-discrimination, things become more complex for the government. So remedy for non-abuse is choosing a good leadership, which is a right of a democracy, and believing their judgment at the periods of emergency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we are done with the debate itself, with the match. So from now we are not anymore under evaluation by the judge. So we'll be able to ask you for your impression and obviously to give you more information on what is coming after the match. So I'd like to start with Ms. Varshala. What are your impressions?
Well, I would like to thank the opposition for the debate. I think some very good points were made on both sides, and the way that we also bounced the ideas off of each other and developed the arguments also led to some very good outcomes. So I think that we can all be very proud of how it turned out. So thank you very much to the opposing team and of course to my team for the debate.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shadopadai.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity. The only point I would like to make is that I really love the cohesiveness with which they have debated, and definitely that is something we would like to have in our further matches as well. So that is something we got to learn from the opposite team, and I really loved connecting with them because their points were really strong, and we learned a lot from them. And thank you so much. Thank you to my team as well for bearing with me.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nabil Darwish.
Yes, I really enjoyed the experience. I think we would have made many of the same points if we had your side. So obviously it was very well done. And especially I liked certain parts of the conclusion and the rebuttal as well. It was very well done. Yes, I think it was very eloquently put. And I also enjoyed some of the history that was put in there, like the Roman dictatorship. That was also very interesting. Thank you for the fruitful debate.
Thank you very much. Mr. Das.
Actually, I also enjoyed a lot and lots of insight in there, and I really like the argument all of you have looked for, and thank you very much. It's a very, very nice learning experience.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Zaitsev.
Thank you for the opportunity. The debate was really enjoyable. Some of the arguments that were made during the rebuttal and in the conclusion, and by all of the teams, just show how really complicated and knotty the subject is. As Sabo made probably the same arguments that you made in your position. So yeah, thank you very much for the debate. You had very good points, and it was really enjoyable.
Thank you very much. Miss Sultana.
Thank you, everyone, for participating in the debate and debating with us. You were the most organized introduction I heard today. So, yeah, it was really enjoyable to hear you guys. Arguments were very good, too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll give the floor as well to one of the coach, Mr. Altamash Khalil.
Thank you. I can safely say I could not have spent my afternoon better. It was excellent from both the sides. The keen vociferousness that both presented whilst maintaining your composure, it's commendable from both the sides, and it really shows how you have done the painstaking research that such a topic merits. So I'd like to congratulate both the teams. I know it's not an easy task to sit for 10 days and keep researching on such a difficult and complicated topic, because there isn't really, a correct answer to these things, and there's a reason why these points can be debated. So I'd like to congratulate everybody who participated, and may the best team win and all the very best for your future.
Thank you very much. So on our side, a few words now, and my colleague as well. We will of course send you the results in a few days from now. You have 3 judges who will assess this match. At the time when they come today or tomorrow, and then you will receive, as usual, the feedback by email in the forms. Obviously, the team who continues will be having a match in 10 days around against another team who has a match as well this week for in order to qualify for the quarterfinals. It will be another theme again, because every round is a new theme. My colleague as well want to give you some information about what is coming soon.
Indeed, thank you very much, and well done to both teams. It's been a pleasure to hear the debate and the execution of your research. It's very much looking forward to your next debate, be that in the quarterfinals or in the friendly matches, or perhaps hopefully see you next year as coaches of your teams and representing your universities in the next edition. And what is happening this week is also the major networking event for all the participating teams and universities. Both participating students, coaches, members of faculty, as well as judges have been invited, and you will be able to network with each other. We have some ice-breaking activities which are directly related to the competition in the beginning. So to kind of foster the communication on the platform, we're using Gather platform, which allows both to have group conversations, discussions, as well as individual conversations with the teams, perhaps that you have met over the course of the competition or that you would like to connect with. And similarly for the judges, there's going to be a spot where they can exchange their experiences into what it's been like for the past matches, and as well the coaches and the faculty members are invited to network, perhaps discuss some collaboration opportunities, co-writing articles or more.
Yes, so it's an opportunity to keep contact, and don't forget that between both institutions, I think maybe it's the first time you have a connection, so don't hesitate to ask if you want to keep contact indeed. I have a very last question just for you in general. For example, on the side of the team in The Hague, have you been already in India? Mr. Altamas Khalil is laughing, I'm sure, but when I ask that. But just first the students, have you been, Mr. Zaitsev, Ms. Varshala, or Mr. Darwish in India?
Yeah, I don't believe any of our team members have been, no.
Okay, and on the side of the Indian team, have you been already in Europe or in the Netherlands before?
I have been to many other countries in Europe, but not Netherlands.
Ah, so that would be an opportunity next time, of course. You come in Europe to make a stop in the Netherlands, visit the university and keep contact with the students so they can show you around as well. Mr. Altamas Khalil, have you been in Burdwan or in the state itself?
Yes, I have. I even speak a little bit of their regional language, but not that great. But yes, I have been to the city, and it's really, really, really well, like really beautiful. And I do recommend everybody who's from the Hague University team that you must visit India, sort of promoting Indian tourism.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. So personally, I've never been in India, so I hope to go one day. But yes, so thank you to everybody. We will see you soon in the networking event this week again, of course. But you can expect during the next days as well, of course, the results and the feedback from the judge concerning this match. So wish you a great rest of the day and as well a good start of the week. So thank you again, and see you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.